Alexander Horat. Today we're making a video in honor of Jordan Maxwell, who passed away a few days ago. And today we're having Jeffrey Matt on the show to talk a little bit about Jordan's life work and what he did for humanity and the human race, and how he fought for the truth. Hello, Jeffrey. Thank you for being on the show.
Hi, Alexander. Thank you for having me on. It's true, Jordan. Unfortunately, he left us just a few days ago, and I'm glad that we have an opportunity because we have, you know, interviewed Jordan, spoken Jordan. We're friends with Jordan, so we could talk about our experiences and pay our respects to this incredible man with his incredible research and work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Some of my first memories of Jordan was watching his videos, how he was exposing, religion and the symbolism, especially how SUN and SON are the same. Like God's so loved the world that he gave his only son so that mankind could live. And that's basically what Jordan said. If the sun didn't rise every morning, then, everybody would die and people couldn't live. So I really enjoyed how he, basically showed us all of the symbolism, like Virgo, the Virgin, and the Virgin Mary, and, basically all the stories with astrotheology. And when I saw, he was making these videos, kind of exposing, what was really going on, what these symbols represented. Well, I thought, it'd be a good thing to contact him and have him on the show, and I did. And he really gave some good insight, and especially on how the Catholic Church is very corrupt, how they're wanting to lead us into world communism, also the symbolism, and it was really a big honor to just be able to talk to him. And we're showing right now a picture of Jeffrey and Jordan. So would you like to tell everyone how you met Jordan, Jeffrey?
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity. So I had met somebody who had at work once, and I was just shooting the breeze, and I said, I wonder how stuff really works. How come I'm never able to figure out the whole thing? And he says, oh, well, we spoke and spoke, and eventually this person says, have you heard of the Freemasons? And I said, no, I didn't even understand the word. I mean, the word didn't make sense to me, right? Because I don't had no zero idea. And so I looked into it, and I looked into a bunch of stuff. I found David Icke, and David Icke was amazing because the scope of the material that he puts out was basically over the top, good. All right, and so I said, "Gosh, I wonder if there are others out there." And I ended up finding Jordan because of that search, and I got some of his videos, and I found out a couple years later that, well, a few years later, that he was going on a trip to Egypt on an organized trip. It was about 18 people, and he had already done two previous trips to Egypt with a woman named Ivy, which Jordan has mentioned many times with his one of his UFO experiences out in the desert with Ivy and I think it's Paul. And so I ended up getting reserving a spot on his third trip to Egypt, and during that trip, again, I had never met him, so it was a big deal for me. And we all had roommates. There, 18 people had roommates, so it was like 9 rooms. So I was able to be roommates with them for several nights, which was really lucky. And that's where it sort of began, where we, shoot the breeze, talk. I learn, I listen. And because it was in Egypt, I mean, it was just such an unusually magical experience for me because I had never been to Egypt. It was my first trip in this part of the world. And to meet someone of this caliber in such an incredible location was really fun. We went on a cruise. Part of the trip was going on a cruise on the Nile. And so we were roommates for multiple nights, but what was really fun was going on the cruise as roommates, going up the Nile, and that was really cool. And after that, I went home. He went home, and I called him from time to time. And I was lucky enough that he was open to stay in touch with me. So our friendship really budded from there, and I did mostly listening. He did mostly talking, and I learned and learned, took notes. And after a while, he says, "Why don't you come out and visit me if you want?" I said, "You know what? I love it." So I came out and visited him. I would visit him. I visited him many times. I would stay with him for several weeks at a time. And eventually, a few years later, I was able to get a year off from work, what people call like a sabbatical. And I worked with him for about a year. No, I'd say a little under a year, maybe nine, I don't know, a couple, about a year. Um, Working with him, and he put out a lot of presentations during that period because I was helping him with a lot of stuff. He knew all the stuff, but I helped him with the computer stuff. And it was really an interesting experience, and I'm very grateful that I was able to actually not just have his friendship, but actually live with him. And we had a great time. It was two guys hit the town, and then the conversations we had and the incredible information that was relayed. This man is a genius. I'm not really, I don't like to embellish, but I really mean it. In my mind, I see him as a genius, and he opened my mind to so many topics, so much insight about things that I never learned in school. And so I see him as this is my term that I'm using. I see him as a master teacher. And to have friendship with that on top for me was like a very big gift in my life. So I owe him for his kindness, his generosity, his friendship, and really the cherry on the sundae was this incredible explosion of learning and fun. And so that's sort of a quick snapshot of my introduction to Jordan. And he, unfortunately, though, was, he had a lot of incredible friends. There's a few people who weren't, they were what I would consider not good actors in the background, where they weren't necessarily have the best intentions for him. But overall, the overwhelming majority of his friends were just sensational. The ones that I was able to meet. Uh, so that's sort of a quick overview. I know it's funny because I'm giving you this info now. I'm curious, Alexander, how did you meet him?
Well, I met Jordan actually at the Laughlin UFO conference. I talked to him, I don't know, probably for about a year, I'd say, or maybe a little less than a year on Skype, doing
Hmm.
videos with everything. So he was telling me that he was doing this Laughlin UFO conference, and I thought that was really interesting at the Aquarius Hotel, which was also pretty interesting because he was saying how we're entering into the age of Aquarius, with astrotheology and everything. So I met him there. There was a lot of other speakers who spoke, but it was definitely a pretty magical experience, kind of like how you had in Egypt, I think. Basically, when I got there, I found this gold black onyx ring. It had 18 diamonds in it. And I gave it to Jordan Maxwell because I think he really deserved it. And that was a really kind of strange experience, I think. And then when I went out to the desert, in Laughlin, there's a place called Searchlights, and there's some weird lights coming from the sky. It was definitely a really different experience that I haven't experienced before. And at the same time, Jordan Maxwell made, I'd say, probably the best speech of his life. He gave a presentation to everybody who was there, on world communism and all the symbolism involved. And you could actually watch that video. I have a link to it, for part of it on my website, that Jeffrey did. That kind of did the same video again, on my website. You can see right here. Jordan Maxwell exposes the symbols of world communism. So if you could all watch that, that'd be really appreciated. So he really, exposed all these things. He talked a little bit about allodial title, before to me, like how that's actually where you own land, maritime law, and he really, like you said, he opened, all these different topics, things I've never thought of before. But once he said it, then you really get it. And that's one good thing, that really is what made him a master teacher, is because you only needed to explain once, and then I think you basically understood it. It's not like one of these teachers, were really technical and impossible to understand. You understood what Jordan Maxwell said because he was telling the truth. He was trying to basically, show the corruption, in our government, in the Catholic Church, across the world. And, that's how I met him. And I really thought it was really a big honor to be able to meet him, about, I'd say, 2 years ago now. And yeah, so could you tell the viewers a little bit about your favorite experience you had with Jordan, or something really memorable that you remember from him, Jeffrey?
I can name a few. One thing I enjoyed about Jordan is that sometimes he was spontaneous. And so we would get in the car and drive places that we weren't expecting. And I enjoyed all the road trips I had with him. Because on a road trip, it's like well, we were living together, but when you're in a car with somebody, it's almost like it guarantees that you're going to have a bunch of conversations. And with the road trip, you get to have sort of like, luxury sort of lifestyle. You go to more restaurants, usually you eat at home, but you went to restaurants, go to hotels. And so my, experiences were traveling with him. I enjoyed that. And the some of the people that he introduced me to were really over the top. Some of them, I won't be able to go into detail because I want to honor and respect those people. Uh, because it's it was done in confidence. But I'm just saying the people, the brilliant minds that were gravitating towards him and his work were astounding. So it's hard to answer that question. What was my top experience with him? Uh, I would say one of the great things that I enjoyed the most was going to conferences with him. So I would fly out from where I am here in Montreal, Canada, to LA, and then I would meet him at life expos and different kinds of UFO expos. I don't remember all the titles off the top of my head. And he just, and then I would watch him do the presentation, but then I get to go back with him after. The other people don't. And then we go back in the hotel. So I had a very, very privileged situation to be roommates with him several times. So that's a highlight. And sometimes we would just go take night drives. And uh, one time he says, oh, let's go out to Hollywood Boulevard and see what in the world's going on, because there's always something going on. There's always some off the wall people out there.
Yeah.
And he and I were nocturnal. We would stay up real late and just talk and research, and I would help him with stuff. So I think the whole thing was a highlight, because each moment with him, each minute I could spend with him was a highlight of my life. And I don't normally feel that way about, I always enjoy meeting new people. I don't want to ever be standoffish, but for him, it felt like it was almost to the point of, at the beginning, it was almost like starstruck, because this man would put out these presentations that I've never heard of. It was never in school, and I can't know. He's the expert, but I felt as if the majority of what he was saying was accurate, and not only was it accurate, it was extraordinarily insightful. I very rarely found a problem, or people would consider an inaccuracy in his work, but he had a very low inaccuracy rate. He was just really, really accurate as a general rule of thumb. So to answer your question, just meeting him and spending time with him is a highlight in my life as a whole.
And it was, just really amazing too. He was one of the first people, exposing all this. He was before David Icke. He was before all these people.
Right.
I think in the 80s or the 90s, with Matrix of Power, his book, that I think everybody should read. And then they made the movie The Matrix, after he wrote his book, and Zeitgeist and everything like that. They copied Jordan Maxwell's work, so he's really one of the people who brought this, to the world attention, so people could actually know what was going on, in their government, especially like corporations, like a lot of your work that you're carrying on, Jordan's work, with corporations and everything else, how they're structured and everything. And I just really think it's, great what he did. And yeah, do you know any information, Jeffrey, on what they plan for a funeral, or do you have any ideas what they're gonna do uh, with Jordan?
I do, but the thing is that it's not. I'm not the one making the final decisions, but from what I understand, I am confident that the people who took care of him in his last months, of his life are genuine, and they're doing their best to create an outcome where it's the highest respect and dignity is sort of put into place for him. So whenever that is finalized, we could talk about it again, and if it's okay to talk about, then I'll come out and come into, go into more detail. But I think for now, I just want to sort of give respects to the people helping take care of his final affairs now. Of course, there's going to be something, of course, but I'd rather leave it in the capable hands of the people taking care of it now, and we can revisit this later, of course.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And really, what I think, everybody needs to do is, check out jordanmaxwellshow.com when it's still up. Try looking at his videos, what he did, with Jeffrey and me, and just really, his impact. I really think Jordan Maxwell's going to live on. He's going to become even bigger than he was during life. I think, what he said will spread. People will know what he did, and his work will live on, and that's really what we're all hoping. And is there anything else you'd like to say about Jordan, Jeffrey?
Yes, I've noticed over the years that the types of people that he would be reached out by, by email or sometimes by phone or in person at conferences. One of the things I really enjoyed is that it was all walks of life, young, old, uh, doesn't matter your background, your creed, your race, all that stuff. It's irrelevant. It's just great people. And he was loved. He really was. And it wasn't just, oh, well, I like Jordan Maxwell and that's it. No, it wasn't just me. I think that's the point. That's one of the big points I want to reiterate is that he was highly appreciated by a group of people, not only here in America, in the US, but around the world. And not a lot of people that I meet in my daily life or when I was working and all that stuff where you have that kind of lifestyle where you're appreciated and respected. Countries all over the world, regardless of your background, your creed, or your education, he would be so generous. I have to say, his generosity really stood out to me, which was just as powerful as his work. Because his generosity, what do I mean by his generosity? He, I've never seen him reject anybody, and he was always there for the young people, especially even more so for the young people. And so I'm not surprised that he was open and cared to spend time with you and to do videos with you. Obviously, I consider you very smart, and I think you have a lot of potential. And I'm not surprised that Jordan connected with you. I'm not surprised at all. And so this is the point I'm trying to say is that he was there for as many people as he could be within his ability. And so that's a very big thing for me because when you meet people like that, yes, maybe in your home or your family, you always have someone or several people in your family that are really extra generous and they go out of their way. This is this type of guy. And if someone was in trouble, sometimes we would do runs. We would bring food to I think there's a mission in California, in LA, I forget the name. Anyways, we would we would make donations, right? And food and stuff to the people who had less fortunate. And that stood out to me. I said, that's interesting. He lived a very frugal and, sort of like a simple situation. It was never extreme luxury, even though he's, experienced it. He lived a very simple life, but he was still willing to give um, when he could. And so that was to me another example of his generosity. If he would get emails, I remember there's a few young people, really young, like, I went to I went to a restaurant with him once, and we were going to go eat, and we were about to order up at the cash, and I think it was like a 10-year-old came in and says, oh my God, you're the guy, you're Jordan Maxwell, you're talking about the Illuminati. He was 10,
Wow.
and I was like, I mean, the age, I mean, is sort of, I mean, I'm glad he knew about it, but I was surprised at how young this young, and then his parents came in afterwards, and I realized his dad had introduced his son to Jordan probably when he was, 9 or 10. We spoke for a while, but it was so cool to see that it wasn't just 30 or 40 or 50-year olds, or it was young people. And so to me that was we had dinner together, and it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, it's a wide spectrum of people all over the world, and he was a class act with people. He was a class act, and he took the time, whatever they felt was necessary to make it a good experience, and he was always there for them.
Yeah, and it's definitely true. And Jordan wanted to start a movement, try to get rid of this corruption and communism on the earth. And he started a new organization called the Order of the New Dawn, and that was really something that he wanted to do and accomplish, was try to change the world for the better. And like you said, he was willing to talk to anybody, pretty much anybody, and give them the time of day. And a lot of people, aren't willing to do that, but Jordan was willing. If you wrote him and you wanted to talk to him, he would answer you. And I thought that was really special, like you said, because he really didn't have that much time to be doing all that um, and everything. Uh, and he started that movement, uh, and we'll see what happens with that
Hmm.
with the thing. And he really just wanted to make a change for the better. And I really think that story is really awesome too. How a 10-year-old came up and talked to Jordan also, because that just shows all walks of life, any age of people. He started a worldwide movement, uh, and that shows. Still showing what he did. Um, and really, like we said before, zeitgeist and all those other things that happen, that all
Hmm.
happened because of Jordan. So even though maybe he wasn't able to get credit for it, it really doesn't matter in hindsight, though, as long as the information gets out there.
Well, I think the man behind Zeitgeist, I think his name is Peter Joseph,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed Zeitgeist. And when it came out, I think it got at least 50 million views. Now that counter's gone. It's no longer in Google Video. Google Video is removed. But I think Peter Joseph did give credit to Jordan. I think there was an interview somewhere on one of the big networks, and so I'm very grateful, that Peter Joseph did that. I mean, there's no reason not to, but it's just sometimes when someone goes out of their way to actually vocalize it, you can talk about it off the air, but when you go on the air and you let the world know, hey, this guy's really something else. So that was fun, and yeah, so I just wanted to add that little tidbit there because sometimes he's not recognized and he's not. Um, his material circulates and takes different forms with other people, but they don't always credit it back to him. But Peter Joseph did, and so to me, that's like a huge win and appropriate. um,
So I would like to ask you, Jeffrey, is how do you think Jordan Maxwell will live on, his work and everything in the future, entering especially this new age of Aquarius, whatever that will bring.
That's a good question. The only thing I could really say at this stage is that I think it's going to happen. There's a very good chance I'm going to be part of it. And how it's going to carry out my contribution, I'll never be able to do anything even close to what he's done. He was simply smarter than me, and more just had the psychological and intellectual ability that surpassed mine in his research and work. What I want to do is I want to expand on certain parts of it and help other people become aware of his work. And I may be working with a few other people to help make that happen. For me, I love picture analysis, and I love trend, picture analysis and trend analysis, and then creating what I would consider stories that help explain and expand on some of his work. And for me, that I believe is going to be my contribution. I'm going to do that probably till I leave this world. It's not going to be my main focus, but he's going to be a big chunk of it because I'm going to be doing my work as well. But I have been able to do presentations because of his teachings and his encouragement and his support. And he corrected me in a lot of things and helped me get a clearer picture. So I want to give back because he gave to me. He never asked anything of me, which I found amazing. He just gave freely. So I feel I want to continue the commitment of sharing his vision and his presentations because he says it best, not me. I'm not going to take over. There's probably others are going to say they're going to take over everything. I'm not taking over nothing. I can't take over someone's brilliance like that because he's the one they should be listening to, not necessarily me. I can do extra stuff on the side to help expand on some of his work, but it's going to be primarily with picture and trend analysis and being available to answer questions, talk about Jordan from time to time, because I really would hope his work and his presentations continue to be available to the world and to whoever wants to know. So that's very important to me. I think that's probably the best thing. In this Order of the New Dawn, I'm not sure how it's going to manifest, but if the right people are part of it, which it appears so far, I'm confident it's going to be the right people. Um, then I want to be part of it. I don't want to be part of a strip mall. I don't want to be part of cheapening his name to dilute his work. I don't want to take advantage of, of of what I was given by him with if you want to make a commercial outlet so that you can get his work, that's fine. But I don't ever want to water it down or take over or say I'm some sort of no. It's just helping out, sort of like a waiter. He brings the plates back and forth. It's not about the waiter. It's about the food. It's about the restaurant. So for him, it's about the work, and it's about making sure I can help channel um, this research to new people and help spread the word to those who are looking. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't want to know what's going on, and I feel very sad about that because that's why we're on the verge of a global collapse. We're on the verge of, unfortunately, what people are calling as a global genocide. And so there are those who are dedicated to themselves and developing their spirit, regardless of your background, regardless of what happened, your education. You have no education, you're at the top. And the education, I mean, you know, self-education, because people work very hard for their degrees, but the majority of the time, that's an infrastructure for a work permit. It's not really what I would consider a complete education. A complete education is what's happening in your country, what's happening in your community, and you understand the history and the milestones of how things actually work. And unfortunately, the human family has been lied to, and he's been cutting through that and putting out astounding material. So I hope that this material grows, evolves, and if we're lucky, if the American people and of course all the people of the world, no matter where you are, can find a way to overcome this tragedy that's befallen the human family that we're going through right now, whereas there's about to be a incredible change, that the education of mankind really incorporates some of his material and double checks it, triple checks it, and then puts it into a format that we should be learning about some of the stuff in school.
I
Not,
definitely
yeah.
agree. It's
So
definitely true. And, I just really think, we're entering into the new age of Aquarius. I think we're entering into hopefully a good age, a new age where, freedom will ring across the land and, people will know about Jordan Maxwell's work and, actually, the symbolism behind everything. I'm going to share Jordan Maxwell's site, Jordan Maxwell Show. While it's still on, it's bringing light to a world of darkness. He has recommended materials, everything he did. And, it's really whether you want to know, like Jeffrey, like you said, because, one of his favorite, famous quotes, at least for me, is when, we're going to go to the Laughlin UFO conference, he says, we'll either be there or we won't. And, that's really the truth. You got to want to know, you got to want to see and learn. And I really think that's the most important thing is not, being stuck in one way of thinking. If another way thinks, makes sense, and is true. Um, so I really think that's really one key aspect that we need to take away, from what Jordan Maxwell did and everything.
yeah, and the other thing too is it's just a tiny detail I want to add to what you're saying about this new age. I like the idea of the new age, but in the on the internet, in the world of conspiracy theories and stuff, that the new age, unfortunately, is often connected with darkness and what's the word? It's not positive and it's not for evolution. So I think, and I'm pretty confident because we've been speaking for a while. We've done a lot of interviews together. It's just to let the listenership know that when we say the new age, it's not secret societies and gangs and cults and underworld in the sense where, um, fake UN new age garbage. It's going to be an age where the human family transcends all as many lies as possible and makes a breakthrough. Whoever survives this calamity that's coming, and have a different kind of world where we can actually grow and evolve. We're no longer under the pressure of constant poisoning of water, food,
And
and air.
that's true. And that's true because, Jordan Maxwell, he fought against the UN, everything they were doing with this fake pandemic and everything, and I definitely agree, it's a new age of freedom, like you
Yeah,
said.
you got
Uh,
that right. It's just that some people, when they hear that word new age, they assume it's we're not talking about a satanic garbage agenda where it's all misleading and you have to feel good about yourself and uh, by worshiping all kinds of weirdo. I just don't, it's you are the product of the creator, and your life is super special, regardless of what other people say. And that means I'm not just for me and you, Alexander. It's for everybody. So I hope his legacy continues, and I'm really feeling good about you and I doing our own thing, sometimes separate, sometimes together, and making sure that his memory and his work never just falls at the bottom of a dustbin somewhere or removed. No, we're going to be talking about him and his incredible research.
and it's definitely true. Jordan Maxwell is actually, the reason why we know each other. He introduced us, and I definitely agree. We definitely need to keep spreading his work and everything he did, and just basically fighting for truth and justice in the world against these totalitarians. And I really just like to say thank you to the viewers for watching. And the big thing is, please watch out for his memorial. We're going to be probably getting some information soon on what's going to happen. It'll probably
Hmm.
take place somewhere close to LA, I'm assuming. But we'll definitely give you all the details on when and where that occurs. And is there anything else you'd like to say, Jeffrey?
Well, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm glad that I'm able to do this with you in particular, because I really believe that your trajectory that you're on, we all do really good things. Sometimes we make boo boos from time to time, but that's just called life. But for you, my friend, you are on a path of, you know, where you have a really high chance of being successful because you're reaching out and you want to know. So I think Jordan, you're honoring Jordan just by being you. And so that's one of the first things. And the other thing too is I want to thank Jordan. He's no longer with us, but I want to thank those thousands because I helped him with emails for a while. Um, he had an incredible base of people that would write him, people from young teenagers to professors at universities, heads of state. I mean, it was overwhelming to you get a phone call or something like that, and I won't be able to discuss some of the people he's met because I just think just out of respect for those people. But I'm just letting you know he's the real deal. And for those of you who want to expand your horizons, it's not only Jordan, but Jordan should be part of the foundation for that evolution. So I want to thank everybody who's ever written to Jordan, anybody who's ever helped him in any way. I also want to thank all the people who maybe had some difficulties in their personal life, struggles because they want to know and maybe their family doesn't understand what they're doing, but they had the courage to search and find Jordan and reach out to him, and they became more empowered and had a good experience. So those people out there, many years back, he's had some great friends over the decades that I've met that are just totally stand-up people, and I'm just grateful to everybody who's ever cared for Jordan, contacted Jordan, and helped Jordan.
I definitely agree, and I just hope everybody who's watched this, if you could please just pray for Jordan, think about him, um, and we just hope that he's in a better place wherever that is. Um and I just really appreciate you, Jeffrey. Talking about Jordan and what he meant to you, and really appreciate what Jordan did for the world. And it's time for us to do our part, following Jordan's footsteps, like you said. It's time for us, everybody in the world to start doing what Jordan did. And that is thinking for yourself. And I really think that's an important thing. So just thanks again for everyone who watched the video. I just hope you all have a good day. Thanks again, Jeffrey. God bless.
Thank you.